Is been doing so many activities that are engaging communities from around the world. And when we talk about communities, we are not just talking about a certain group of people with common way of thinking. No, he has the capacity to engage to very diverse, multicultural, multidisciplinary, and also colorful communities. You know, tonight we're going to hear from Filip what his life is about, what his journey is taking him at the moment. Because when we talk about the journey, it's about now and what's going to happen in the few minutes that are coming. That's our journey. Whatever else he's going to tell us about his background, that is his history. So I'm not going to take more of his time. And we are welcoming for the 30 minutes series of Moving Cultures, Filip. Welcome, Filip.
Hello, welcome, Wani. Thank you for your invitation and for giving me space and time to be able to talk about my practice and the activities that I've been doing recently and the activities that I hope to do in the time coming. And welcome everyone. Hello everyone from wherever you're watching. Good morning, good night, or good afternoon, like Wani said. I hope that you're well today. I can start telling you a little bit about myself. Maybe that's a good place to start. So my name is Filip. I am currently based in Poland, in Lublin. My interest in art is mostly in dance and choreography. I've danced since I was a young child. It's always been a form of escapism for me at first, something that was a passion. And later on, it became something that I learned that you're able to make a living out of it, hopefully, if you pay attention and you find yourself in the right place at the right time. So that's one of the things that I wanted to tell you about, is that I'm interested in dance and choreography. I also realize that I'm a little bit stressed out when it comes to this live format, so I may be losing my thoughts of track, but I'm going to be back with you right away. So like Wani mentioned, I'm interested in community work, and especially in how we can use dance as some sort of tool to be able to go into a space, to be able to start a dialogue, and to be able to hopefully create a space where different voices are equally heard at the same time. And I've had the opportunity in the past to be able to live in London, to be able to travel to Bangkok, where we met with Wani, and to be able to travel to places like Korea or Bangladesh, and now I'm based in Poland. And somehow I've realized that during these travels, I've been able to collect multicultural experiences and connect with a diverse group of artists, activists, and people who work with communities, and somehow thanks to these experiences, I believe that I'm able to have the strength, have the knowledge that is able to give me the power to focus on the activities that I'm able to do today here in Poland. And maybe I can tell you about the activities that I'm doing right now, and specifically about something that's very close to my heart. And the project that we're working on right now in Lublin, in Galeria Labyrinth, is called Biblioteka Azyl, and azyl in Polish translates to asylum. However, the word asylum meaning a safe space, a shelter, and the Biblioteka Azyl, we hope, is going to fill some type of educational gap that the Polish government, unfortunately, isn't willing to fill in the educational system. And we hope to provide LGBTQ literature, LGBTQ plus literature and books to the community here in Poland. And it's interesting that we've recently started the project about a month ago, and already the global community of artists and authors and publishers and just everyday people have been reaching out to us and supporting the project. And I feel like during a time of pandemic, it's also a nice gesture to notice that we we as citizens of the world somehow feel that if we see something of importance to support, we get together as a collective and focus on supporting this cause. So I think that that's one of the great things about the project, is that it's being built by and being created by the community. This library is being created by the community. And maybe I can tell you a little bit more about why we hope to create this library. Recently in Poland, we have had last year such places as the LGBTQ free zones created by small towns here. If you want to find out more information about these places and what they actually mean, I advise you to go online, and there's a lot of information that can be found in different news portals or blog spaces from theorists and activists who write about these spaces. However, the library that we're creating is a response to the hate, to the homophobia, transphobia, and to the division that is being created. And from speaking to many young people and older people too, and even from my own experiences, I learned that growing up in Poland, we didn't have as much LGBTQ plus visibility in the media or in books. We didn't have representation of seeing happy queer stories publicized, and I didn't see these stories about my own identity or the identity of my friends in the public eye. Therefore, for many years, maybe I was sort of confused or lost with sort of trying to find where I belong in the world. And from speaking to many young people in different activist or artistic projects, I hear this voice echoed. And it's something that really worries me, is that we have to grow up in a space and every day we have to fear for our safety. We have to fear that maybe by simply entering the streets wearing a colorful handbag with a rainbow badge, or maybe by dyeing our hair a certain color, or by simply expressing our sexual identity by holding our partner's hand, this can risk someone hurting us or someone hurting our family, you know? So going back to the library, I hope that this can be an educational space for people to read about their identity, for people to see that queer people exist. They have existed for generations, and I feel like we need to bring visibility to this issue, and building a library as such, I hope is a tool that will remain in Lublin for years to come. And I hope that it can be an educational tool for everyone, actually. This is something I think is worth mentioning. I wouldn't want the library to just be for the LGBTQ plus community, but also for the parents of these communities, or for people who might struggle with understanding what it means to be different from the outside, from a hetero normative perspective. So maybe these people could also come into the library space and read about queer stories, read about stories of difference, and actually learn that these people have existed. So yeah, that's one of the things that I'm very passionate about right now, is building this library and providing queer literature for the community here in Poland. And I'm not sure who's listening to this message, but if there are any authors or publishers or people who are interested in queer literature, we would love to receive books or any type of publications from you into our space. It's a way to support us, is to donate these books if you're able to. So I'm sure you can contact me at some point, and feel free to do so. And this would be close to my heart if you could do so, and of the community here in Poland too. So this is about the library. I've said a lot about the library, and maybe I can move on into some of the choreographic practices that I'm interested in, and some of the choreographic practices that I've recently been thinking about. And this is something that is not easy to talk about, actually, because as a dancer, someone who spent every day before the pandemic in lockdown, before the lockdown, as an artist who spent a lot of time moving physically in spaces with other people, with other bodies, and as someone who sort of thrives in the space of being in togetherness, and suddenly being isolated and locked away, I realized that it affected my mental health, it affected my thought processes, it affected how I saw the future as an artist, as a performance maker, as a dancer. And at the beginning of the pandemic, I found that I was confused and lost, actually, if I'm honest, about which direction I see my work going. Is it going to be possible to practice community dance? Is it going to be possible to practice being together in spaces with others and sharing spaces? So I think it's important to be honest about this, that because I've heard these messages also echoed by some friends and family members who are also performance artists and dancers and choreographers, is just to maybe take a moment, to realize how far we've come as a global community, that we've now lived through over a year of a pandemic, and that we're functioning and that we're thriving. And I'm aware that it's thanks to the strength in the community that we are able to thrive and that we are able to keep going. So yeah, that was the beginning of the pandemic. I feel like it was important to mention that it wasn't an easy period. It was a time that was sort of unhinged and uneasy. Something else that I can say about what the pandemic caused. So the pandemic actually caused for me to spend some time living in London, where I studied in Roehampton University, which studies, by the way, on the BFA dance course, BA dance course. And I have to take a moment to say a few words about Roehampton University, because I feel like it would be injustice not to when these words come to my lips. Roehampton University, I feel like it's such a warm and heartfelt institutions of professors and educators who dedicate their hearts and time and knowledge into sharing it with youth and young performance makers who hope to be creative practitioners and artists and activists. So I would recommend anyone who's interested in dance and who wants to study dance to check out Roehampton University and the programs that they offer, the MFA program and the BFA programs and the BA program, because they really change lives and they sort of instill confidence in individuals, and maybe allow them to understand that they can thrive in their own language, and then they can thrive in their own practice if they find tools and processes to manage what they're interested in. So I just wanted to take these few moments to be grateful for this space and the people who create this space. And maybe going back to now, coming back to Poland, again, maybe I can return to saying that it was quite a stressful process of suddenly returning to a country that I haven't lived in for quite a while. And to a country that maybe I didn't have the most safe memories of, because I grew up in Poland as a young boy who was a dancer, who was sort of expressive, and growing up as a gay kid in Poland, I sort of struggled with how I expressed myself and how honest I was about who I was as a person. And then living abroad actually helped me realize that there is so much representation around me that I lacked in Poland. And by being and living with this type of representation, I feel like I've sort of earned a huge blessing. And somehow I feel like the time that I'm here in Poland and the time that I'm living in Poland now is maybe an opportunity to share these blessings. I realize that by saying this, I might be putting a lot of responsibility on myself. But at the same time, I remember a professor who told me at university that if we're in a space of privilege, maybe it's our responsibility to save this, to share this privilege. And I feel like in activist work and in the artistic work that I'm doing, I am in a space of privilege where during a pandemic, I'm able to stay working as an artist. I'm able to have support systems around me from family and friends who allow me to keep going. So maybe this is what I'm trying to say, is that in my work that I'm focusing on right now, It's probably about sharing. It's about sharing experiences and also creating spaces for others to be able to share their experiences. And hopefully, going back to the library project, this will be a space that others can do so. Maybe I can go back to the library project because I feel like I haven't said all the things that I wanted to say about the project. It's still quite new in my heart. So I realize when I'm passionate about something, I tend to to talk on and off about the topic without a plan beforehand. It's part of my practice as well as improvising. It's about working with the unknown. So one other thing that has been beautiful about the project is that it's almost like a choreographic project. I've been thinking about this recently, and I would wish to share this with you, that although it's a project that I'm working on from sitting down here in a space by a computer on my iPhone, I feel like it's creating so much movement. And I see this movement as dance, actually. And suddenly by posting a message and saying, are there any queer authors who are able to send books over to a space that may be in need of these types of books? And suddenly over in Ireland, in Dublin, there's two responses. There's a response from somebody living in New York, and there's a response for someone living in Paris. And the reason why I see this as choreography is the intention and the asking is being sent out into the world, and the community who is so far away physically, suddenly it's like they're giving you a tight hug and they're reminding you that they're here with you, and they're also moved by the project. They're also engaged in the project and in the intention of the project. So I see this as a dance, actually, as a dance that is an improvised dance that has no clear structure, that has no beginning or end, and that is also for everyone to join if they wish to, both by sending books and also both by reading the books. So it's interesting how this project is suddenly becoming this for me right now as we speak. I'm also learning new things about the project, I feel, once being able to share this news with you. So it's interesting for me to make these links and connections about the project. I feel like one of the things that interests me in community the most is when someone chooses to get involved. And what I think I'm trying to say by this is that in these types of projects and workshops, we send out an invitation. So it's about creating a space. We try and describe the space using the language we have access to, and we try and send this message into the world. And what I find most beautiful about the community work that is happening is the response that is being received on the other side. So for example, the question is, are you able to share one of your book titles with us for the library? And the person's response is so unexpected and positive at times, where they would basically change the whole trajectory of their day in order to be able to focus on something that they also find important and they also find of need. And again, I see this as some type of a dance and as some type of creating waves for a global community. So I hope that I'm interested in seeing how this continues, and I'm interested in seeing how this process unfolds within a year's time, for example. It's only been a month that I've been working on this now. So like any process for any artist, it's still masked with different types of questions, and it's masked with the unknown. So I'm interested in figuring what will come out of it. Okay, so I think maybe it's enough to talk about the library. I feel like I've told you most of the things I wish to share about the space. And I also feel like it's important to say a couple more words about why the library is needed. and especially for young people. And I'm so grateful to Wani for giving me this space, this platform to be able to talk about such important issues. It is quite emotional to speak about this because I realize that I'm a single voice that's speaking for many unrepresented voices. And at times I feel like it's a big responsibility. And at times I feel like, who am I to speak for these people? But at the same time, I see this opportunity, this conversation as a little situation of privilege that I can speak for these voices. So I wish to tell you some of the stories that I learned about last year from the LGBTQ plus community living in Poland. There was a situation in our country last year during the presidential election where the president and many members of the parliament, the government, sorry, they called the LGBTQ community an ideology. And then that created a wave of other disturbing and hateful speech, which I don't feel like is needed to share right now because it's just giving space for more hate. But during that time, I spent some time in cities and in the town speaking with people and asking them to design a small postcard on which they can write how they feel. And I have some postcards actually in front of me. I can show you some of them. These were all created in the streets by people that I met. But the reason why I'm showing them with you is they are visually aesthetic and they're nice to look at. But at the same time, I feel like they hold so much raw information about how somebody feels. And collectively, I feel like there's some type of manifesto. And this is actually one of them here. Try to be a rainbow in someone's cloud. This is a quote from Maya Angelou. So it's always beautiful to hear this voice. But some of the other cards that were found during the project, one of the most emotional ones for me to recall was written by a young person. They were maybe 14 or 15 years old. And in the card, they wrote that sometimes I wish I could be in heaven. And every time I sort of think about this and I recall this situation, I get goosebumps because I don't know the exact meaning behind the words that were written. However, seeing a young child, teenager, write, sometimes I wish I could already be in heaven. And from the conversation that we had afterwards, it informed me that this person lacks any type of support structures from the government. They lack any type of support structures from their family, unfortunately, and they lacked any type of support systems from the educational system. And there were many more stories about people speaking about being afraid of going out into the streets. People were speaking about their dreams to be able to get married. People were speaking about mothers or fathers took part in the project too, and they would write about the fears about their children, right? So they're not inside of the LGBTQ plus community. They are straight parents. However, these injustices also affect them because they fear for their family members. So I feel like it's a global issue that we need to solve together step by step, and any type of initiative that hopes to create change and hopes to bring the community closer and hopes to create healing is something we should focus on. And I realize that I'm saying a lot, but I feel like in 30 minutes, I'll try and say as much as I can. And hopefully my voice, and I'm aware that behind my voice, there are the voices of many other people who feel unrepresented and who want to fight for justice. I feel like this could give us some change by being in this together. Yes, okay. So I feel like I'm coming to an end with the message that I wanted to share with you today. And maybe to finish off, we can take a moment to do some small activity together. Maybe we can just take a moment to to tighten our fists or maybe give ourselves a small hug, just to hold our bodies. And something that is part of my practice as well is something that I learned from the wonderful Maya Angelou. And she talks about going out on stage. She talks about going out on stage or speaking to a group of people. She talks about reminding yourself about all your support structures, about all the rainbows that you've had in your life. So maybe during this hug, you can remind yourself about all the wonderful support structures and people who support you every day and allow you to thrive. Just giving a moment to give yourself a hug. And feel gratitude to the family members, if that's the case in your situation, or the friends. Maybe it's someone who's distant physically, but they still are able to support you in some way. And thank you everyone who was listening for hearing out my message. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Filip. And I have something else to add to this support. In some of my music and dance therapy sessions, I used to call this exercise loving time.
Loving time, exactly.
Loving time. And then after you actually cuddle yourself and you feel embraced and protected, then it's a time to kiss yourself. Yeah. And do that connection. You know, sometimes you don't need anyone else to come and give you a hug because you can do it yourself, you know. And then you kiss the other side. And this has been an amazing journey with Filip of intimacy, self-connection, community love, and as he say, support. So important to acknowledge the support networks you have around you, family, friends, colleagues, neighbors, people within your country, out of your country. And it's such a big community around us. And sometimes we feel so lonely and so disconnected. So thank you so much, Filip, for bringing into our life this specific topic and time. And let's continue building and promoting unity in diversity. So sending you lots of love.
Thank you, Annie. I'm sending all the love back to you.
Thank you. And keep shining.
Thank you.
See you again.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.